Hop down to 28. It says, then they will call upon me, but I will not answer. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, it's just the opposite, right? It's just before we was calling the person that wanted to smoke, and they always pick up. Wisdom saying they calling on me, but you know what?
They calling me.
I missed that. You know what I'm saying? I don't even have no voicemail. What's that? But anyway,
Exactly. What's that?
Right, what's that? Then they will call upon me, wisdom says, but I will not answer. They will seek me they seeking diligently too. But they will not. Yo, this is when they get in a panic.
Where's
right?
Waldo?
Can't you see him right? Like, where he at, bro? Like, I don't see him. Everybody got on red, white, and blue.
Where in the world? It's Carmen San Diego. That's wisdom. She walk around with her coat like, nope, absolutely not.
Getting it. So, I got questions for you on this one, right? Because I think we all can relate that sometimes you want to change up or you want to go and get some advice or some help, but it's too late, baby. Have you ever been in a position where you was reaching out, you was calling, you was seeking some assistance, but man, the time had passed, it was too late to get what you needed?
Oh, for sure. And I'd even use deadlines, for instance, something that's even more practical. You look at a deadline, you're like, oh, I got a few more days. You hit the deadline or pass it, and it was something important, and you hitting up everybody. Well, my finger got cut off, and then when I did it, and it's like, they're looking at you like, wait, you had a whole deadline here. Right. You missed it. Now, there's times that that's happened to me, and I did get the help that I needed, but that definitely helped me in the future go, hold up, I'm going to get that done if not way before the deadline, before it, at least. Right. This way, I got it in, I got it done. But yeah, there's been times where I needed help and I was like, dang, I waited too late. But, I feel like that's a lesson.
That's facts, man. That's facts. It's one of those instances where we got to be careful because we never know when we reach the end of the line, right?
Yeah.
Even with life, we never know when our time is up.
It's a wrap. Yeah.
I didn't wake up today thinking that today will be my last day, and Lord willing, it won't be. Right. And it's interesting because most people don't. And for somebody, today was their last day on earth.
Yeah, it was.
And, as sad as that is, it may even be somebody out there listening, one of their loved ones, passed away. It's sad. It's tragic.
It is.
Stuff like that is happening all the time. Like I had people reaching out to me just this week with, tragic news, having to send prayers up for family members. And you would think, man, the new year just came in. And guess what? The world is still revolving the same way it has been.
Exactly.
Like Solomon says in another book in the Bible, in Ecclesiastes, nothing new under the sun. The same thing that was happening yesterday, unfortunately, in some instances, is still happening today. That is even more reason for us to be on guard, to not wait to the last minute, not to seek wisdom after it's too late.
That's true.
Yeah. So I'm curious, why do you think some people have that tendency to wait till it's too late? And then they scrambling, they calling everybody, they seeking it diligently now.
Some people are ultimate risk takers, ultimate procrastinators. People who think, oh, I'm going to have time. People always think they have time where you don't. You do not have time. And it's just best to always knock things out when you can, because you never know. Even when you have it on your spirit to call somebody or do something with someone, or even just to spend time with your family or your loved ones or whoever, when you have that on you to do so, it's like nothing is ever too important for you to be like, man, I ain't got time. I gotta get this work done. And it's like, we're always pushing and thriving and hustling to make $1, X, Y, Z. And it's like a resource that is renewable. Right. If you do what you have to do every day, but humans are not resources that you can just flip and they regenerate. That's not how that happens. So I feel like we have to prioritize even in our lives with what's important.
I totally agree. Yeah, it's so many things in life that can catch us by surprise, catch us off guard. And Solomon and in the Bible right here in Proverbs, it's warning us, you don't want to do that in any aspect of your life, but more notably when it comes to wisdom. And honestly, this is really speaking to the way a person lives their life. It's essentially saying you can't live this whole life. Okay, let me case in point, right? You know how they say when it comes to, that street life. What are the two places that people tend to end up when they choose that lifestyle?
In the ground or in jail.
Right. Right. And think about it. Every day you got somebody else that is waking up saying, I'm about to do that.
Yeah.
And
knowing what could happen.
Already knowing. Already knowing. Like, I ain't never been in that street life. I'm assuming you ain't never been in that street life, but the two of us, two never been in the street life people, we know where that life leads.
Right, exactly. And granted, I know of people and have had family that have been in that. Yeah. And it did not lead to anywhere but tragedy.
Right.
So, yeah, it's unfortunate. But yeah, there are a lot of people who, even knowing that, go, you know what? This is the life for me.
Yeah. And what they lack is wisdom, because only the lack of wisdom will lead you to do something where ultimately you lose.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that, right? You have people that start businesses with the hopes of being successful. But if somebody was to come to you and say, hey, you know what? There's a 99% chance that this business is going to fail. You still gonna have people that's like, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna be that 1%.
Honestly, I looked a little further, you know me. And it really is everything in verses 29 through 31. Mm-hmm. It's basically, and I hate to jump forward, but it's
actually read 29 through 31 so we can just include it.
Because they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord, which is basically what we were talking about with, people that choose the street life. They like, hey, I hated the knowledge. I don't even fear God like that. I'm just do it. Would have none of my counsel and despised all of my reproof. So everything that people said.
Right. And that's reproof, right? That's the kind intent.
That's the kind. Like, please don't do this. Please.
Right. That's Granny, like, baby, please.
Please don't do this. I can give you the money. Don't worry about it. Right. Therefore, they shall eat the fruit of their way, which is basically talking about, the business analogy, and have their fill of their own devices. So even if somebody says, yo, this is not going to work, I promise you, I've done it. And people be like, yo, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to eat the fruit of my own way, and I'm going to have my fill and see how it goes. It's basically what we were just saying.
Right. It's crazy too, because everybody, like, let me ask you this. Why do some people really get it in their mind like they going to be that 1%?
I don't know. A lot of people love being outliers, and I'm sorry, but when you look on commercials and they're like, this medicine can cause blah, 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 death. But it only happens to 0.2%. A lot of people are like, you know what? I think I want to be that 0.2. I think it's going to be great. Like, nobody looks at a commercial and goes, I think I want to have all those side effects. Right. Nobody does that. But that's life. There are things where you might be that 1%. And some people are like, you know what? I want the smoke. Give it to me.
Mm-hmm. And now you bring up a really great point. And this makes it even more practical, right? Because I can hear what some people would say. Well, some people get into, whether it be a life of crime, or some people take a medicine with all of those side effects, even a side effect including death, because they're desperate. They are so in need. And I want to acknowledge the fact that, man, you know what? Some people's life is extremely hard. And yes, some people do find themselves in desperate places. However, if I'm being completely candid and completely honest, is that really a justifiable reason to make a decision that is unwise or that could cost you your life? And that's what I feel like a person really has to sit back and weigh. Like, I don't deny the fact that some people are in dire straits and that they may find themselves on hard times or desperate. But what do they say about desperate people? It leads them to do things that they know are not ultimately going to work out for their benefit, but they take a chance. And that's really what it is. Like, wisdom isn't about taking a chance, right?
Right.
Let me ask you this question. If we take a step back, that like there's 3 different elements that the Bible talks about. It talks about knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. And to a certain extent, they're different levels. And I think we can all agree that the greatest level is wisdom, right? Which means that you got knowledge, you got understanding, and you got wisdom. Well, let's not even get to the wisdom piece, right? Like sometimes knowledge alone can be enough to get a person to a place where they can eventually develop that wisdom. And here's the question I want to ask you. What is knowledge to you? What's your definition of knowledge?
Knowledge to me, I would say, are the nuggets that you pick up along your way. Basically, like, you go to elementary school, you go to middle school. I'm sorry, some people go to pre-K. However, those stepping stones, that's what I feel like knowledge is, the stepping stones that you pick up along your way. And the thing is, you can pick them up or not. A lot of times, how some people, they were the accelerated kid, like, whoa, they done skipped grades, like they picked it up. And then you have some where they just went on ahead and some who don't pick it up at all. So I feel as though it's like knowledge to me is like the stepping stones that you pick up and what you utilize as you grow. And that could be in any aspect of your life, your career, you can pick up nuggets everywhere, but it's up to you to pick them up.
Yeah. And everything that you said is absolutely on point. And I just want to add one thing to what you mentioned. I had a teacher in the class that I was taking provide a definition to knowledge that I had never heard before, and it really stuck with me. And what he said is that knowledge is acting on what you know, right? Because it's one thing to gather the information, to have heard the information, to know something. But a person who is really exercising knowledge, they don't just collect and gather it, but they actually act on that information that they have gathered and the things that they do know. And when I saw that, I was like, that's heavy. And the reason why he utilized that definition is because he was using it in the sense of what we look at in the Bible. And if anybody studies the language of Hebrew, it is a language that is based upon action. It's a language that is very concrete. I know that in our world today, in the 21st century, we typically look at things from an abstract perspective, right? That's why you get people that try to take the simplest thing and make it so deep and so esoteric, and they totally ignore the actual concrete, simplistic meaning of it, because we live in a society where people are more inclined to think about the things that are conceived in their minds as opposed to looking at the things that we see right before us. But in this instance, he's talking about when you look at that Hebrew language, it's concrete. The people who were writing these scriptures that we're reading, they thought in a more concrete versus an abstract way of thinking. So when they are considering the word knowledge, it's not something that will be more so an application or a theory or something, but it's something that they would actually put into practice. It requires an action. And in this instance, he's saying that that action is acting on that information that you gathered, right? So we typically look at it from the perspective of that information that we gather. And that is true to a certain extent, right? In our times, that is what knowledge is. Knowledge is the gathering of information. But when we look at it from a Hebraic or a biblical perspective, it takes it a step further and it says, hey, in addition to gathering that information, you also need to act on it to truly be exercising knowledge.
Right. That's good. I like that.
I heard that. I was like, bro, that's heavy right there. I was like, I got to remember that.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah, because it's so interesting how people will know things, right? Like, have you, like, going back to those examples where somebody's like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I case in point, right? And this is no shade, right? It's no shade. It's just an example that I'm used, right? Smoking, right? Like, people know it can kill them. Even today, people know it can give them cancer, but they still do it. Like, they have the information, but they don't necessarily act on it. And like I said, like, I'm not throwing no shade. I'm just simply using this as an example where a person knows the consequences of their behavior, and yet they choose to do it anyway.
Yeah.